Okay, I hope I do this right. I hope it lets me film for the length of time that I need to. I'm gonna try to put the pattern that I'm using in the description. And I'm gonna, I haven't filmed a YouTube video in a very long time. So, this is my workspace. I've got all my fabric and stuff right here. I've got, sewing machine, and then I've got, damn it, I can't flip the camera. Okay, and then I've got my little ironing space. I don't have an ironing board, but I use a towel laid out. You can do the same. It will work, I promise. And it won't burn your carpet if you're choosing to do it on the floor. Alright, so first thing you're gonna need to do is print out your pattern. And I'm gonna do this video to where you'll be able to follow step by step by step and do it with me. So hopefully this will help anyone that has trouble with it. So you're gonna cut along the solid lines, and then when you get to the dotted line, you're also gonna cut it. Man, I don't know that this is gonna let me film for the full amount of time that I need to. I hope so. If not, I guess I'll just have to make a playlist. I don't really want to do that, but I guess I will if I have to. I'm also filming this while my children are at home, and one of them is awake, and I'm sure the other one will wake up while I'm doing this. But I wanted to go ahead and get this video out as soon as possible. See, child. Alright. So, you don't need this part. This is the only part that you need. Notice you leave the red lines alone. That's not part, you don't need to cut those for any reason. You cut along the solid lines and the dotted line. That's it. Set that aside. You will need a fat quarter. You can get these at Walmart for like 97 cents to $1.50 usually. This is a fat quarter. A fat quarter is a 1/4 yard of fabric. So, if all you can find is, big pieces of fabric, which I know that for some reason fabric is getting scarce right now, at least where I live here in Kentucky. I bought this right when this all started. This is a yard. You can measure it out to, and divide that up to where you have, half lengthwise and half widthwise. I'm just gonna fold mine. You're gonna want to get your good fabric scissors for this. Mine are pink, or mine are glittery because my husband loves me. Alright. I'm trying to do this without moving the camera around too much. I don't want to give y'all motion sickness. Alright. And if you have that big piece of fabric, you can cut it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be a fat quarter, but for the purpose of this video, I'm using a fat quarter, and I haven't done it with a big piece of fabric yet. I've only used fat quarters because it's just easier. So, I'm gonna take my big old whopping piece of fabric. This piece of fabric, when I bought it, came in a package that says 1 yard. So I know it's 1 yard. I'm going to cut it into 4 equal size pieces. Now if yours is just a random piece of fabric and it doesn't have, you know, measurements on it, after I'm done cutting this piece of fabric, I'll measure that fat quarter and tell you what the measurements are, so you can just measure it out on the big pieces. And I'm trying to film this video to where everybody, even if you don't have a sewing machine, can help. I am going to try to, later this week at some point, figure out a no-sew mask tutorial, and I'm going to try to figure out a children's mask tutorial, and I'm going to figure out a mask with a pocket insert tutorial. But I have to get it under my hands first before I film a tutorial, obviously. Okay, so I've got 4 equal sized pieces here. I'm going to set these aside for later because this isn't, yeah, I'll use one of these today for this tutorial. Might be easier in that real busy fabric. Easier to see the marks. So I'm going to set my other 3 pieces aside. The measurements for fat quarter. Half this video will probably be me looking for scissors that I set down somewhere. So I'm sorry. We're sorry. Okay. Alright. Oop. Alright, so it looks like a fat quarter is about 18¼ inches wide. And, oh, come back here, friend. Looks like it's about 23 inches long. So that will be your measurements for a fat quarter, if you have that big fabric and you need to measure out fat quarters. All right. So the first thing you're gonna do is take your fabric, fold it in half, hamburger style, with the pattern facing out. So the pattern of there's, you know, 2 sides to the fabric. There's the patterned side, and then there's the plain side. You're gonna fold it with the patterned side out. It's very important that you do this. You're gonna want to line it up as much as possible. Let me see if I can bring this over here so you guys can see what I'm doing over here. Let me see if there's a way to do this. I apologize for my inability to film a YouTube video. This is not my thing. Well, there we go. You can see it better there. Okay. Dang it. The box that's holding my phone up is the box where all my sewing stuff is, so I'm sorry. Alright. So what I've been doing is I measure out on my measuring tape first to make my life easier. you're gonna mark, oh jeez. You're gonna mark up to 7.5 inches. You're gonna mark every 1.5 inches. So 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, and then 7.5. Lay the 7.5 mark at the edge of your fabric. I've been doing mine all the way to the right. And then you're gonna mark those pieces at the top. So just mark every 1.5 inches. Including the end piece. So you end up with a total of 5 marks. Then you're gonna go down to the bottom and do the exact same thing. One of my children is like scraping on the door. I'm trying to figure out which child it is. Okay. So let me see if I can pull this. Okay. I don't know if you can see those, but those are just the measurement markings that I marked out. Okay. So, oh, okay. I forgot to say this. Before we start, turn on your iron if you're going to be sewing. If you're just marking out patterns for someone, don't, obviously, you don't need to turn on your iron. But turn on your iron if you're sewing. I also meant to give a list of materials needed. I didn't do that. My bad. I will do that while we are doing this next part. So for this next part, you're going to match up your markings, and you're just going to draw a dotted line. Now this isn't necessary if you can cut in a perfectly straight line the entire way, but I cannot. So I draw a dotted line to connect my lines. It makes life easier. It ensures that I have a straight line, which is very important for these strips. Just gonna want to make sure that you get these strips as straight as possible because they're very important. They're gonna make the ties for your mask. So the straighter they are, the easier your life will be in a little bit. Alright, materials needed. You're gonna need a tape measure. You're gonna need a fat quarter of fabric. You're gonna need pins. You're gonna need preferably paper clips if you can get your hands on them. You're gonna need something to mark your fabric with. You're gonna need an iron. You're gonna need a sewing machine. I think that's it. You're gonna need the pattern that I'm gonna try to link. And if I end up having to do a playlist, which it looks like I might, I will, when I share the video, I'll just share the playlist. I'll figure it out. So this part's a little tedious, but it will make your life so much easier in the end, I promise. Just do it. And don't be afraid as you're going down making your lines to triple and quadruple check that it's straight. Just check as you're going down that it's all lined up. It will make your life easier.
Mama.
No, I'm sure. What, baby?
Cause I'm starving. I want an eggs.
Buddy, I can't make you eggs right now. Would you like a different snack?
What?
There's a whole shelf of snacks over there, buddy.
Where's my tablet?
I don't know, dude. There we go. Alright, so you're gonna get out your pins. Now let me say something about pinning your fabric. You're going to want to pin this as little as possible. Now the straps aren't as big of a deal, but when we get to the actual mask making part, we're going to want to pin that fabric as little as possible to keep...
I found a green tablet.
Okay, buddy. To keep the weave as tight as possible, to keep out as much as possible. Also, if you're making these masks, do not sell them. Don't. The pattern that I got, that I'm linking you to, is made for a nurse, by a nurse. She has asked that we not sell them. She said if you would like to make them to give out to healthcare professionals and people that need them, great. But don't sell them. Don't be a dirtbag. So the people that are getting these masks are people that truly need them. So we want to try to keep them as safe as possible by you know, not compromising the fabric as much as possible. Now, some pins will be necessary, unfortunately, but there is very little we can do about that. That's why you need paper clips. Alright, so all I did was go to each section and put a pin to hold the 2 layers of fabric together. That's all I did. And that's just to make life easier while I'm cutting it, so that I know it's not going to slide around. I'm really sorry about that light. Let's see. Okay, maybe that'll be better. And then you're just going to cut those strips out. Cut along your dotted lines that you made, so that you know you're cutting straight. So here's going to be the fabric with your strips marked out on it. And here is the other fabric that came off of that. This is the excess. Set it aside. You're going to use it. You're going to use basically every scrap of this fat quarter. Now the way that I do it is not the exact way that the pattern has told me to do it. It's the best way that I could figure it out. I am not a seamstress. I am a plain old regular human being. I don't have any wizardry magic in my fingers to make me a seamstress. My name is Earl. I'm just doing the best I can. Also, if you haven't stopped to do any self-care today, stop and do that. It's very important for your mental health. We need to, you know, check on each other and make sure everybody's doing okay. If you've been wearing the same clothes for 3 days, get up, go change them. It'll make you feel better. Okay, I about have all my strips cut out. Hang on. You're gonna end up with a total of 5 strips. They'll all be, I think it's 1.5 inches wide. Yeah, they'll all be 1.5 inches wide. And they need to be a minimum of 10 inches long. Now with the fat quarter, it comes out to a little bit over 10 inches. But that's a good thing, because you never know how big people's noggins are. And the more length you have for that fabric, the better. Now there is a way to do it, and it's included in the link to the pattern, that if you have really long fabric, you can do it without having to cut out 5 strips. You only have to cut out 3. I don't know how to do that. I haven't done it. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I don't know how to do it. Okay. So I got my 5 strips. Bloop. You're going to take your pins out so nobody gets poked. We don't want to ruin the mask by getting our blood on them. Okay. Alright. You're going to take one of your strips, leave it folded in half, cut it like that so that you end up with 2 of them. The other 2 strips, you're going to leave those, just leave them alone. You're only going to cut the 1 strip, and you're going to cut it in half like this. Okay? Stack those up. If you're just cutting out patterns, your part for the strips is done. Set them aside. Now that fabric that I had you set aside earlier, unfold it all the way, and then fold it in half hot dog style. You're going to take your pattern that you cut out, and you're going to line it up on your fabric. Now you don't need to do any pinning yet. What I've been doing is line it up on the pattern like that. You're going to want to get it close to the top, leave just a smidge of space at the top so that in case you goof up, it's okay, you can fix it. Leave a little smidge of space at the bottom. Put just the tiniest little mark. See? Okay. You're going to go down and do the same thing. Little smidge of space at the top. Little smidge of space at the bottom. And you're going to end up with 2 marks, which come out to 3 sections. Your sections are going to be almost equal. See, I just did those markings. That's it. I didn't have to do dotted lines or anything because this part of the fabric is short. I can handle cutting in a straight line for just this little bit of time. So what you're going to do is start at those marks and just cut straight across. I am really sorry about that light. Alright, so you're going to come out with 3 sections about this size. Bloop. Bloop. Now one of your sections may be a little bit longer. It happens. Whatever. It'll be okay. Just make sure that's not the one that you're using to measure. Use your other 2 pretty equal sections. You've got a little bit of room for error in this part, so don't stress about it. It's gonna be okay. Now you're gonna take your pattern again, and you're gonna line it up with the part that says fold. You're gonna line that up right on the fold of the fabric. Okay. This is the part where you absolutely have to pin and there's not much we can do about it. So let me get this pinned, and then I'll hold it up and show you what I'm doing. Now these masks are good for healthcare providers because if they happen to have an N95 mask, this will fit over top of it and give them that extra layer of protection. And if they don't have that N95 mask, this will also still provide protection. Not much. It's not a replacement for medical grade PPE, but we're doing what we can. We're working with what we got, folks. Okay, so it's pinned good enough for now for me to show you this. Okay, so what I did was I lined up all the folds. See how the folds are all lined up straight? That's very important. They need to be lined up straight or it's going to make everything awful. You're going to have a bad time. We're not trying to do that. Okay, and then I just pinned the pattern to the fabric. I am putting one pin on top, one pin, ooh, that's a big boy, one pin on bottom, and another big one, Jesus, and then one pin on the other side. The only side that I really like excessively pinned is the side where the folds are, and that's because it's really important that that stays still. Okay, so before you cut, double check, make sure that the bottom of your fabric does not go over the bottom of the pattern. Make sure that you got that little smidge of space up top. Make sure you got that little smidge of space up at the bottom. Make sure there's no overlapping, that you have space to cut it all out. Okay. And then you're going to cut it out. Give yourself room for error. Do not cut right up on the paper. It's better to have the extra space than to have it too small. You can always trim off extra fabric later on in the process. This stuff is trash. That's the only part of the fabric that's going to waste. Unpin your pattern. Set your pattern aside. And now you've got 3 of these. Now, the pattern only calls for 2. You can use 3 if you'd like. It's not going to make, too big of a difference, but it might provide some extra filtration, which might make some people more comfortable. Trying to think, the person that I'm making this particular one for, I may go ahead and do 3 layers for this one. But if you're just cutting out patterns for somebody, you're done. You're going to take these 3 plus your strips, grab, I got the big old paper clips, big ones. Clip your pattern together, bloop, and set it aside and start on your next one. That's all you need to do if you're just cutting out fabric. And you can do that even if you don't have a sewing machine. As you saw, you don't need anything really to do it other than, you know, pins and fabric and paper and that kind of thing. You can do that to help somebody who's sewing, and you'll be able to help them a lot. Alright, so the next thing you're going to want to do, this is for the people that are sewing the masks. Now the pattern only calls for 2 of these, but I'm going to do 3 with this one to make it, you know, a little extra filtration. Because this fabric is kind of, this particular fabric is kind of thin. So I want to provide her that extra layer of protection. So you're going to line them all up, lay them out flat, unfold them. All I did was unfold these and lay them out flat. That's it. And just line them up. See? Then you're going to go over to your sewing machine. Handy dandy. Grab your strips too when you're going over there. Gracious. Okay. Set your strips, you know, close-ish in range. Grab your pieces. I'm trying to think of a way to do this. I think if I set it right here, you can still see the sewing machine and it not be too awful loud. Okay. Now I'm using black fabric or black thread. It'll make it easier for you guys to see it on this video. I also have not been changing out my thread and bobbin for each different pattern because I'm trying to turn out as many as possible. If you want them to look pretty, you can change out your thread and your bobbin and all that jazz. But I feel like that's an unneeded hassle right now. So what you're going to do, you're going to start at the edge. See how, shit, no you can't see. Okay. I lined up the zipper with the edge, the zipper foot, whatever the heck it is. I lined it up with the edge of the fabric so that it'll be a little bit of space and it'll give me, you know, a good seam. You're just gonna go and, why? Also, I apologize if I have to stop and fix my sewing machine because it is possessed. I'm not sure why. Because that's just how my life is. You're going to go down in a straight line. Now, where I stopped, I didn't stop quite at the bottom. I left a little bit of space. I would advise you to do the same. Lift up the foot, turn the fabric, put the foot back down, start up again. Try to stay as close to the edge of the fabric as you can. Okay, do one more stitch. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Lift it up, turn it again, set it down. Hang on, it sounds like it's not wanting to cooperate. And I don't want to... Now you can see where this is all coming out. And give me just a minute because I think my machine is screwing up. Yep, sure is. Okay. So I'm going to take this off for a second. We're all doing this together. It'll be fun. Let me grab my seam ripper. Hang on. What it is my sewing machine heard me talking shit. Alright, so you see where it kind of like jumbled up? Usually that's because, now this isn't true every time, as I learned yesterday. Usually it's because the bobbin is not threaded properly. So what you're going to do is just pull that out. That's it. Nothing special. Set that down while you fix your possessed sewing machine. If you have any virgin blood to make a sacrifice, I encourage it. I'm gonna pull that out some so I don't have to rethread it here in a minute. Also trying to do, okay, I'm also doing the same with the thread that comes out of the bottom where the bobbin is. Alright, I was right. So usually when this happens, it's because the bobbin is loose. Oh, it's not loose. Okay, so we're just acting a fool. Alright. Let's just rethread it, period. This should fix the problem, but if not, we will find out together. There we go. Now you do need to have, you know, a basic familiarity with your sewing machine before you do this. I'm very familiar with mine. It's possessed. I'm aware. It's a hand-me-down. Alright, let's see if that fixes the issue. Okay. Hopefully it does. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we can get back on track here. Yeah, it sounds like it's fixed. Good. Okay. You're going to want to try to hold your fabric as tight as possible while you do this. To, you know, keep the layers together and make it even. Now, for those that aren't super familiar with a sewing machine, when you go to do an edge like this where it's two different sides, you're just gonna do the same thing you've been doing right here. Get, you know, close to the edge and then lift your foot up and turn it. It's not as hard as it looks, I promise. You can do this. When you turn your foot, I find it a lot easier if you make sure that the needle part of the sewing machine is down and into the fabric. It kind of holds the fabric still and makes life easier. Whoop. Sorry, guys. Okay. And it's still acting up. If we could just not act up, that'd be great. Okay. If I knew how to edit videos, I would do this in a much simpler fashion, but I don't. So this is what you're stuck with. I'm sorry. So you're just going to trim the tail ends off where those long pieces of thread were. And you're going to end up with your layers stitched together. And it's going to go all the way around the edge. Set that aside. You're going to need it in a few minutes. Now, your strip that you cut in half earlier, set it aside because you don't need it quite yet. Take 2 of your strips that you did not cut, and you're going to lay them out with one with the plain side up and one with the fabric side up, and you're just going to cross them together and make a 90-degree angle like that. Now, I think the pattern says to pin it, but I haven't really found a need to pin it, so I'm not going to pin it right now. Just kind of hold it steady as you go. You're going to line it up like this, and you're going to sew a straight line at a 45-degree angle. Just like that. That's all you got to do. And I'll show you that as soon as I get the thing down. Well, this is fun. I'm glad my sewing machine decides to get possessed literally every step I take. I'm sorry. Okay. Hang on. I have to rethread my sewing machine. I'm sorry. There we go. Perfect. Okay. All right. Why? Why? Why are you doing this? Dirtbag. Oh, cool. It's really... excellent. Alright, so my sewing machine is possessed again, and I'm really sorry. I swear I haven't been having this much trouble with it. Pull it out so you don't have to rethread it. Oh, okay. So that's what we're doing. What is this jumbled mess? What? Okay. Are you still... Yep, you're still threaded, right? So why are you acting up? I'm real sorry, guys. This is just how life is right now. I really don't want to have to buy another sewing machine, but it looks like I may have to because this guy just keeps messing up at every single turn. But you gotta work with what you got. Okay. Let's see if I can. This part is ass. I hate having to thread up through the bottom of it. Oh, okay. Well, it was threaded and then it just came off on my finger, so that's cool. There we go. That should fix it. Why? Don't do this. Baby, come back. There we go. Alright. Okay, so you're gonna pull out where that screwed up. And when you're using a seam ripper, be very careful so you don't rip your fabric. Fun fact, when I bought my wedding dress, I got it for $75 at David's Bridal because the zipper was messed up. And at the time, I didn't really know how to use a sewing machine, but I figured I could replace the zipper. And I did. I couldn't figure out the sewing machine to save my life, but I did take a seam ripper and go stitch by stitch by stitch and pull out each stitch of the bad broken zipper. And then I hand sewed a new zipper in there. And it came out really well. Alright, so I almost made this mistake, so I want to point it out to you. When you start sewing this 45-degree angle, bloop, you're going to start from this inside corner where my pinky is pointing. And you're going to go straight up to the outside corner right here. No, I lied. I'll show you how to do it. You're going to start from the outside little corner. The way that I just showed you is the exact opposite. Don't do that. You're going to have a bad time. Okay. Alright, so I may have to stop this video and restart in a few minutes because my sewing machine is messed up again. You can see where it got jumbled. So I'm gonna have to take that whole seam out because you can't be doing that. This is awful. What a nightmare. Now accepting funds for a new sewing machine. Here we go. Okay. And that'll just come right up. Alright, let's see. If I can't figure it out and it does it again, I'm gonna stop the video and just start new, I guess. Well, not start new, but start a new video and pick up where I'm at right now. I don't understand why you're doing this. Why do you gotta be like this? Oh, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad that happened. I'm just gonna, let me see if I have another pre-wound bobbin. Alright, there's one. I'm just gonna replace this whole bobbin. See if that helps. Okay. Because it feels right. I don't know why it's not acting right. Alright, let's see if this helps. Also, I'm not sure why my nails are so dirty. I'm sorry. Oh, that's not good. That's loose. That's why it keeps coming undone. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna stop this video while I attempt to fix this. Oh, okay, wait a minute. It just popped back in place. Let's see, that should fix it. Okay. I'm sorry that half of this video is me fixing my sewing machine so far. I think it's only gonna let me film an hour at a time.
We did not get any sleep.
What are you talking about, Bubba?
See, it's already morning.
I know it's already morning, Goofy.
We didn't get to sleep at all.
We did. You just got up very, very early.
I want to go red. Put the PJ Masks on. I don't need the TV when I have a tablet.
Okay. Tight.
I'm just having a race with the TV and my tablet.
Oh, okay, buddy.
Oh, what? There's just full of watermelon on the trampoline.
That doesn't sound like something you should do.
Look, I'm right here in the picture.
Yeah.
Ooh, do that day, Lola. I now put your iron on the towel. I did not hit your iron, and I did not hit your iron. Mommy, I did not hit your iron.
Okay, buddy, can you go play, please?
No.
Pretty please?
Well, I don't want me video in here.
Okay, but Mommy's busy, and I told you I was doing something important, so I need you to go play in Mommy's bedroom, okay? If you're gonna be in here, you have to turn your tablet down and be quiet, okay? Mommy's having a hard enough time. Okay. What is this, attempt number 5? Something like that. Some kind of ridiculous number. Okay. Okay. Kind of messed up, but I think it's gonna be good enough. Let's see if I can fix it without having to take it out. Okay, that's good enough. We're just gonna accept that for now. Okay. So what I did was I went just straight across from this little edge right here, straight across at that 45-degree angle to this next one. And then you're gonna repeat that process . Bless you, please go wash your hands. You're going to repeat that process with your next 2 strips. Alistair, please stop. Perfect. And then you're going to take, see how you have this little excess bit right here? You're going to cut that off. You're going to leave just a little bit of space. So that you just have that angle. And these are going to make your straps. You're going to trim that. And it looks like my video is about at an hour, so I will, I guess I'll just have to start another one and make a playlist So I'm gonna do that. Alright, and all I did was do the same thing to the other one. So see, it's gonna make these long strips. Set those aside, you're gonna need them. And on the next video, I will start showing you how we're gonna do the binding. I think that's what it's called. Look at me using big kid terms. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make the playlist with the second video on it, because YouTube, it looks like, is only letting me do 1 hour videos each. Okay.